Helped me set up my resume. So with that help, I was able to land a job within the first 4 months of attending school at MyComputerCareer.
A few weeks before graduation, though, I landed my first job as a Tier 1 technician with a large insurance company. And 6 months later, I was actually working as a Tier 2 technician with a significant pay raise. And kind of like my first job, they were also very impressed that I had so many certifications.
You have to look at what you want in life and where you're at. For me, MyComputerCareer was an easy choice because they offered me a better lifestyle that I really wanted, and it was the only place that would really give me that upper hand in life.
The folks at MyComputerCareer are very caring. They really care about our success in the IT industry, not just with certifications, but also with finding a career and really being happy with that choice.
Hello, IT enthusiasts. Welcome to another episode of My Computer Careers, Get Into IT Live, where we do just that, get into all things IT. Thank you so much for joining us today on your lunch hour on Friday. We've had a couple of weeks off. Really glad to be back into the saddle here and doing this again. Always look forward to these chats and always look forward to seeing all of you. So thank you. Before we jump in, just a little program reminder, as always. Patricia is out in the comments. So if you have anything to say to our guest today or have any questions about kind of what we're talking about today or about IT in general, or even about, studying IT, we got the right guy. And I will properly introduce the right guy here in just a second. So again, thank you. All right. So in case you haven't noticed, we recently launched a new series called the IT Blitz. So that's essentially once a week, we spend a few minutes rolling through some of the latest happenings in the tech industry to keep us all up to date because things seem to be changing so fast. So we figured once a week, we'll kind of recap what we're seeing in IT and cyber. We'll have a little bit of fun. So that's what you can expect to see in that. So today, we have the luxury of chatting with the face, the magic, everything behind all of that, and Jim Atria. And Jim is a senior live online lead instructor at MyComputerCareer. And he's going to kind of share with us a bit about his role and a bit about the program and what's going on in the industry. So, Jim, welcome to the program.
Hey, thanks for having me, Aaron. I appreciate it.
I have seen your face before. I'm glad to see it again. This should be interesting. I'm looking forward to it.
It's always good. It's always good to be on, right? I look forward to the questions.
It's good to be seen, right?
Yes.
So I have a bio here from LinkedIn, and as I look at it, it's very impressive. Do you want me to go through the whole thing, or we want to just hit the highlights?
No, there is no necessary. I mean, I always joke with my students that I started in IT in the good old year of 1988. So that's a long bio.
He's been doing it a long time. Let's just put it that way. Very good at what he does. Very knowledgeable. It's why we tagged him to do this. Jim, you've been with us, what, 8? Did you say 8 years now?
Yeah, a little over 8 years now.
All right. So there you go, folks. That's Jim's bio. That's what you need to know. That's
right.
Perfect. We also go to the same barber, in case anybody's wondering. So anyway, let's jump in. All right. Jim, we officially launched the IT Blitz. This first question right away. What's it been like stepping into the role of the on-air talent after, the social media talent after so many years of instruction?
You know what it was? In all honesty, I found it rather difficult to read and talk about stuff that I'm actually reading because that's not who I am. I teach from the heart. I teach from my brain. I teach from my experience. I've got decades of experience in the industry. So a lot of times when I'm sitting in the classroom, it's conversation, right? I'm sitting down, we're having a conversation. We're talking about things, all things IT. We're talking about the topics, how they apply to the students, what they need to know, how they need to know, what they need to know for the test, what they need to know for the real world, versus when you're reading news, you're actually reading the news, right? So that was actually, it took me a little bit to kind of get used to because, I'm not used to sitting there reading off a screen and like, telling somebody what I'm actually reading. As I'm not as fluid as you are, Aaron, let's put it that way.
Yeah, well, I've been doing this for a little while and I'm still not very good at it. So I understand completely. And just to peel back the curtain a little bit, so we actually as a team go find those stories, and then we do develop a little script to help Jim kind of along, through the process. So when he's on screen, he's reading those as he moves through it. So you can't always tell that he is. You do a pretty good job with it, but that's just showing everyone a bit of the behind the scenes with that.
The behind the scenes is definitely interesting.
That's right. So you ended episode 1, and I love this because it shows a little humor. You're asking people if they want to be taught by AI or they want to be taught by you. What made you want to take on? We approached you about this, and you were excited kind of right away, which was great. But it's also an undertaking. You have a lot to do, and this is a weekly program. What made you take this thing on?
We're probably going to get into this a little bit later, but I think that staying on top of IT is critically important to anybody that's in the field, right? One of the benefits of IT is it's an ever evolving landscape, right? So you have to keep your ear to the ground and listen and be aware of what's going on around you, or you're going to get passed, right? You're going to get left behind. And it's one of the things that keeps IT interesting. It's one of those things that, like I said, I've been in it for decades and I don't get bored because it's ever evolving. It's always changing. So being able to deliver that to students or, any listener is really good because it's something I truly believe in. Like, listen, you really should be paying attention to these kinds of things because they affect our day-to-day lives. They affect our jobs. They affect our roles. So even though I'm in education now, a lot of this stuff that we talk about is just stuff that I've already been reading and staying on top of and bringing to my students anyway.
We're going to talk about that, the importance of that kind of later on in the broadcast, but
Right.
it's such a really good point to hit. And we are going to talk a little bit more about it. So certainly appreciate you jumping into this. Patricia, am I still blurry? No? Yes? Okay.
You
cool.
look good over here, Aaron.
All right. Good to go. All right. So let's talk about, we're 2 episodes in right now.
Right.
So hopefully there's a whole bunch more. Let's see how it goes, if you can stand doing this. But you've covered everything from gaming hackers to ransomware to AI fails. How do we all work together as a team to decide which stories kind of make the cut? Because there's a lot going on.
We could turn it into a weekly 3-hour-long show and still not even touch on most of them. So for me, it's what tickles my fancy. First of all, like, hey, that really seems interesting, and I think other people would find that interesting. And the other one is, does it have a story that somebody in the field, especially somebody new, because a lot of times I'm student focused, does it have a story that these students can carry with them into their career? Hey, look, we talk about the importance of passwords, or we talk about the importance of security, or we talk about how AI is right now, it's in its infancy, but it's growing and what it's doing for people, right? But when you actually see it and you actually see it in real life, then it's, it makes it concrete. It makes it real. It really brings it full circle. So when we have that opportunity, that's how I pick those things. It's like, how would this relate to my students? How would this relate to somebody who's new in IT? And even people who've been in it for a long time, how would those people feel? Would they be interested in it? I still find them interesting. Half these articles I'm reading, I'm loving them. So
yeah. And to kind of cap that, at the end of some of the recaps that Jim does, he'll say what this means for you. And he's talking to you, Mr. or Mrs. Prospective IT Pro, whatever it may be. This is what this story actually means for you. And I love that little bow on top. Yep. All right. We got Oleg looks out in the chat, and this is good for Jim. Does MyCC offer any course in AI?
We do. We currently have AI 900, which is Microsoft's entry level for AI and AI related. How do I put this? AI and AI related devices and systems within the Azure network. So we do currently have AI 900. I know they're looking at expanding our AI offerings,
Yes.
but currently we have one AI class that's part of the ITSA program.
And Oleg, I don't know exactly where you are career-wise or if you're just kind of looking for some training, but we also have an upskill academy, which is short courses. And that has a full AI program, no matter what your role may be. So you may want to jump in and check that out as well. All right, let's move on to the next question. We kind of an interesting balance. I pulled this one out because it was, this story stood out to me. You did one about the Knights of Old, which was just a perfect example of kind of the weird dichotomy that is in IT. It's a 158-year-old company that was wiped out by one bad password. 158-year-old company. I forget how many people lost their job. How do you balance those wake-up calls without scaring people away from the IT industry?
I mean, I don't see that as something that would scare people.
Right.
Right. If you're interested in IT, then you're looking at that and you're going, I can help these people. I could solve that. I could fix this. I can train them. I can make them the $6 million man. We have the technology. We can make them stronger. Right. So, anybody who's really interested in IT would look at that and go, they might even say, wow, that's really
Heck yeah.
common sense to not have something like that happen. But what we have to remember is most people aren't IT centric. They're not IT individuals. They don't grow up in IT. They don't understand how a system functions. So, even walking into an old company that's like, look, we're an old company, but if we're going to operate in the modern ecosystem, we need to evolve even slightly, right? Because a lot of those things to be taken out by one bad password, you have to think how many red flags were missed, or maybe they never even looked at IT.
Yeah.
So I honestly see some of those things as almost like a call to arms, right? It's not going to scare somebody away. It's going to entice someone into IT. Like, listen, I can fix this. I can make something better. I can save these companies. I can save these people. I can have that conversation.
So we're not scaring people away. We're presenting an opportunity.
Yes, exactly.
Love it.
Yeah.
All right. The calling out some absurd stuff, which is one of my favorite parts about this. Like the $65,000 a year AI school that we mentioned previously that has no teachers, or the Taco Bell and their AI troubles. What was it? Like 19,000 glasses of water were ordered.
Yeah, 17,000 cups of water or something along those lines.
So why do you enjoy sharing those types of breaking news stories for our industry?
You know what? It's one of those things that when you're in IT, and this is true of any industry, you can be one of those people like you're an electrician or you're a mechanic or you're an astronaut, and you'll watch a movie and they'll have something on the movie and you're like, that's not how that works, right? That's not how any of this works, but it works for the movie. AI is kind of in that realm right now for the mass populace, where AI is very much in its infancy, right? It is a burgeoning technology, and there is a lot to learn and there's a lot to grow. So it's a great technology to get in at the ground floor and grow with, but it is not there yet when it comes to a lot of these requests from people higher up within the company. Oh, I can get rid of all my people. All I do is use AI.
Right.
And it's a core misunderstanding of what the technology is currently capable of, right? And it's one of those things that, they're like, oh, we're going to sit there and use it to take orders at Taco Bell. Well, do you think about the average person? How much people are going to want to try to troll this AI to see if they can make it break, right? It's one of those things that, it's not just the AI, right? But it's the AI and it's the people using the AI, right? When we teach people, it's like you build something, of course you think people are going to go A, B, C, D, E, because that's how you built it, A, B, C, D, E. And that's how your brain works is
Right.
A, B, C, D, E. But you give it to somebody who's never seen it before and they're going A, E, D, C, B, and they're all over the place. And you need to think about those kinds of things. You need to make people aware that this is a real possibility, right? So while we can use AI to do all kinds of things, we really need to sit down and have a conversation about what are the true capabilities and how can we really use it to make people's lives better as opposed to replacing someone. Right?
And there's Patricia letting us know that at the Bojangles this morning, they had an AI drive-through. So
how did that work out for you, Patricia?
yeah, I'm sure it was interesting. And by the way, calling out the absurd, and I remember the Taco Bell story because you and I were laughing about it. We were all kind of laughing about the 17,000 cups of water. I remember that being a story because of that absurdity, and I think that helps. Just from a practical standpoint.
Oh yeah, humor always works for all kinds of things like that. I love it.
No doubt. All right, you're obviously an instructor. And so just looking at that background, are students and new IT folks, to get back to the point we're talking about with following the news, do you see your students following the news enough, or is that something that maybe is
not at all?
No,
not at all. Absolutely not. It's actually one of the conversations I currently teach the last 2 classes, right?
Okay.
So I joke with my students. I'm like, I'm getting you ready for the real world. I'm pushing you out of the nest. You better be ready to fly.
Yeah.
So it is one of those things that people in the industry and people new do not follow enough, right? They at all, right? And it's not one of those things that, and I shouldn't say everybody, because obviously I have some students that do, right? But
Sure.
for a vast majority, we actually spend a little bit of a class being like, listen, let's find some IT related blogs and videos and websites and stuff like that, because like we said, it's ever evolving. You need to keep your finger on the pulse or you're going to get left. You need to know that NVIDIA's coming out with new GPUs, or Intel's coming out with a new CPU, or right, or how Windows is end of life in next month, or any of those kinds of things that are going on. You really need to, because when you get into that job, at least for myself, when I was in those jobs, I was the everything guy. If it was technology, that was me. They were, hey Jim, did you hear about this technology? I'm like, yeah, let me talk about it. We can talk you guys through it, because they're going to want you to implement it. They're going to want you to have a discussion about it, and you want to be educated, right? You want to be able to have an informed opinion on what they're bringing to the table. Now, it's impossible to stay on top of everything, but that's a lot of times when you can rely on your peers. Hey, let's have a conversation about this. But no, I find that a lot of students do not spend enough time following the industry in any way, shape,
That's
or form.
hugely important, folks. If you don't take anything else away from this, listen to that point. If you are in IT in any capacity, including a student or a prospect, know what's going on. Get involved. Read. Never stop learning. That's such great advice, Jim. Appreciate it. All right. You specifically called out one of the NVIDIA stories with the CPU delays. And, I'm just thinking, just from an audience standpoint and from a, perspective, like who's out there kind of paying attention to, is that something, if I'm an entry level person, should I pay attention to it? Mid-level?
For
care
NVIDIA
about
stuff,
those hardware roadmaps? There's hardware roadmaps.
yeah, the roadmaps, that's definitely some higher tier stuff, right? It's
Yeah.
definitely one of those things that might entice you if you're at the lower level. It's not something that you really need to dive into, but be aware, but know that it exists, right?
Yeah.
Because most people, or should know if they're in an IT, that we have the 2 big CPU manufacturers, which is AMD and Intel, right? So, and for the longest time, they made everything, right? Still to this day, they pretty much run every single desktop device that's out there, right? But now you have with Apple and their M processors, you've got Android SoCs, you've got Samsung SoCs, you've got ARM-based processors, right? So that landscape is starting to change, right? So, well, normally I'd be like, look, it's a hardware roadmap. Don't even think about it. But the fact that NVIDIA's wanting to throw their hat into the ring, and they're a $4 trillion market cap company. If they're throwing something in, they have belief that it's going to be something good. And Apple, as much as we like to make joke with Apple, but they showed what an amazing laptop can be, right? So, and destroys anything that we have on the PC side. So having these things out there and having these roadmaps could be really beneficial, especially for people going into IT, because company goes to you and goes, hey, listen, we need to buy laptops. Hey, why don't we wait, right? And NVIDIA is supposed to have this new one out next year. Maybe we can have something better that gives us a little more power, a little more processing power, maybe a little bit better battery life, a little more bang for the buck, whatever it happens to be. You can have that conversation, right?
And again, when Jim gives these recaps, he'll say, what's this mean for you? Pay attention to that, because that's it at all levels. That's for everyone that's out there kind of paying attention. So I think it's really great. This next question, I think we covered, but I do want to say the next question is about humor, kind of helping folks remember, just about anything. And I think we definitely hit that. But in the last episode, if you didn't see it, go check out the Burger King story, because one of the points that Jim made is that the Burger King hack was pretty security as solid as the paper Whopper wrapper. So I thought that was relatively entertaining. So certainly go check that out. So the next question, Jim, when you talk about things like password policies or security practices in these stories, are you thinking about what students need to know day one? And from what I'm hearing, I think that may be a redundant question, but
yeah, it's never, and it's not even students. Everybody should know about these password policies and security practices. We say all the time that the number one defense against a lot of these hacks is education, right? When we talked about earlier with the Knights of Old, right? The 158-year-old company, they had one bad password. Well, that is because their user wasn't educated or didn't understand the importance of password policy and security and stuff like that. So I would say this goes beyond even students should know by day one. Students should be having this conversation with everybody around them, right? So they understand. If we take a look at how most of our data is, stolen, or how most of our outside of data breaches, which are a really big thing, which we can't help, we're putting our hands in somebody else. It's social engineering, right? It's weak passwords. It's being taken advantage of, right? So those kinds of things absolutely should be something that we are looking on day one and day zero, right? We should be having these conversations. I mean, I'm a father. I talk to my daughter and her friends, and I tell them all the importance of, hey, make sure you're doing this to secure your devices, and you're enabling MFA, and why this is important, and all the rest of that stuff, because it's so easy to be, I don't want to say gotten, but it's so easy to have social engineering really just affect your life. So the better people understand why security is important, the more likely they are to participate in it.
We actually just read a story, and I think I don't remember what we did with it on the marketing team, but essentially it said that Gen Z just has awful cyber posture. Gen Z is so used to hearing about cybersecurity and so used to hearing about the possible impacts, is that they're kind of just tuning it out. And when it comes to folks, the older folks, even, senior citizens, even are much better with security than our younger generation. Does that ring true?
I mean, to a certain degree, yeah.
Yeah.
It's, like I said, I've been in the industry for so long. I've watched these people evolve. I've watched these people grow up. I've taught every generation. I've taught everything from boomers to Gen Z and everything in the middle. So I have a hard time making certain stereotypes real, because I've experienced it. But I think what it is with a lot of younger people is they have what most younger people do, which is they feel invincible, right? It's I have no fear because I have no fear, right? That they don't have the life experiences to carry it with them. Or a lot of them, and I even have regular students in there to be like, well, let them hack me. I don't have anything for them to take, while they're missing the whole point of they can still do damage to you regardless of whether you own anything for them to take, right? They're not always trying to steal something. They can just be trying to impersonate you or use your accounts to access other accounts, which is called pivoting, right? So there is definitely a little bit of that with the younger generations. I know for myself, I was definitely at the forefront of my generation when it came to tech, and I always assumed that every generation growing up in tech is going to just take it that little step further.
Yeah.
And what I'm finding is it's kind of just stays the same. They understand how to use the tech, they understand what's on the tech, but they don't understand why it works.
Got it. Are passwords a thing of the past, Jim? They going away?
Not yet. Not yet. As much as we like passkeys and biometrics and everything else, they're still one of the easiest security measures to implement across a wide variety of devices. We will eventually see it. Biometrics obviously is huge in mobile devices, phones and tablets and all kinds of stuff like that. But even with Windows Hello, where they can use your camera to recognize your face, it's still not quite where it needs to be, right? And Windows Passkey, I mean, they're getting there. We're starting to see those strides being made, and I'm all for it, right? Because it's much easier to hack my password than it is, my finger, for instance, right, or my face. Yeah. So, but we're definitely not there. What we are seeing is a lot more MFA and 2FA. So two-factor authentication, multi-factor authentication. Almost every site now implements that. Or what we more commonly see is two-step where you log in and then we're going to send you a text or we're going to send you an email with a code and let you log in like that.
Right.
So that's definitely improving a lot of things, but it's still the core. The username and password is going to be probably front and center for a while longer.
Got it. Sorry, I couldn't help myself. You're here. I got to tap in.
Yeah, no, that's fine, man. I don't mind answering those kinds of questions at all.
Oleg, I see you finished ITSI a while ago. Go check out Upskill Academy. Certainly. That's where you could figure out, you find that AI course that you're looking for. And Kofi, yes, happy Friday. Thanks for joining us, certainly. All right. I'm going to get you out of here on this one. Obviously, you have, Jim, this unique perspective as both an instructor and now absolute on-air talent that's going to be signing autographs around breaking news. So what do you expect? What can people expect from the IT Blitz moving forward? Are there any types of stories that you're excited to dive into or anything that people should be paying attention to?
I mean, we're gonna try to find some of the stories that just relate to IT as it stands right now, right? And we're hoping to do more of the same. So if it's something that you're in IT, you're interested in IT, you don't even know where to get started. We're looking at the news. So that's kind of like, here's your 30-second blurb. If you'd like to go read more about it, I encourage it. Right. So we're definitely going to be looking at things that affect us. I tend to be very security minded, very network minded, very hardware minded. So those are my three tenets of the things that we're probably going to pull from those three things. But those are the three things that really new IT people should be looking at anywhere: is hardware, networking, and security. So no, I mean, it's one of the interesting things to talk about with an IT, and I think we mentioned this earlier, was, almost every week there's just something out there like you've never even thought of. Right? If you had told me 5 weeks ago that, hey, by the way, Taco Bell's going to have 17,000 cups of water ordered, or Burger King's going to lose this kind of stuff, or any of those kinds of things, it never ceases to amaze me. And I think that's one of the benefits of IT, is because it's an ever evolving landscape, and because it's always changing, and we're putting so much of our lives out there. There's so much that can impact it, and it almost changes on a weekly basis.
I love it. I'm really looking forward to continuing the program, folks. Go check it out. It's only a few minutes every week on Thursdays. It's anywhere between 2 and 4 minutes. I really do think you'll have some fun with it. And Jim, obviously, really appreciate not only you joining us here, but joining us for the Blitz every week as well. What did I miss? Did I miss anything?
I don't think you did. I think you did a really good job over there.
Well, what do you know? Every once in a while, I fall into it. All right.
No.
Folks, thank you so much. Thank you for joining us. Patricia sharing the Upskill Academy site, Oleg, by the way. And we will also be sharing the IT Blitz link in addition to Jim's LinkedIn. So go check him out. Again, he's been doing this a long time. I'm sure he'd be happy to answer questions from time to time if you have those. Really a great resource to tap into. So everyone, thank you for joining us on another Friday. We will see you here, same time, same place next week. Hope you have an awesome weekend. And Jim, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It was a lot of fun.
I agree. All right, folks. See you.